lives in Erin, Ontario.
That's amazing.
He's well into his 70s now. He's retired from the kind of work he did for years, but he's been very involved. He was he's a tall, gangly guy. He played basketball at University of Guelph, and he's been a basketball guy all his life, and he's run a whole hoops program for kids in Erin, in and around Erin for decades now, that keeps them off the street and keeps them doing something interesting and different. So I can go up and find him on the web and know that he's still actively involved in doing that as of summer of 2012.
Wow.
But I want to interview Pat, because Pat in those early 1970s was doing a 3-day workshop for 12 people at a time, using video and video feedback, and using the Amadon and Flanders interaction analysis model.
Thanks. Wow.
And
is that what you used, or is that?
No, I decided not to use the Amadon and Flanders model because it relies on a really high level of observation and recording in 3-second intervals of actual behaviors, teacher behaviors and student behaviors, and then an analysis of that. They used to do this in the back of the room. This is in 1973, 74, and his assistant Marigold was coding behaviors. She'd run out of the room. Pat would start the feedback with the video. She'd go down the hall and code this stuff on a telephone line to some remote computer somewhere, which would then in turn spit back an analysis of this on telex paper, and she'd run back into the room.
Run back,
And I'm serious. And
The guy was committed. He knew what he was about.
Amadon and Flanders developed this out of Bale's interaction analysis model for interviewing behaviors and other stuff prior to that. And they used it in teacher training. They were writing about this stuff in the 60s. They used it extensively in public school teacher training programs, where what you could do was you could be videotaped, and so then you could take your own videotape, and you could sit down and you could do your own coding. You could be taught how to do your own coding, and then you could do all your own analysis on this matrix. But it would take hours. So,
kidding.
On a student-by-student basis, they were using this stuff in this very cumbersome sort of way.
So post-industrial age, eh?
And Pat figured out how to do that computerized in the early 70s. And add that to the impact of immediate video feedback in the room. So you got a double whammy.
So this obviously influenced.
It influenced me. And when I got really thinking about it, I made the decision not to use the interaction analysis model because it looked like that would get too difficult for people to work with. Little did I know that most people would find it too difficult to work with a camera. But the interaction analysis model, I went to written feedback sheets instead, as a different way of getting at some of that, without it becoming too much demand on the person facilitating the process. But interesting, eh?
Totally interesting, and
I mean,
really fun to have that background.
So I want to talk to Pat. I really want to talk to Pat. And when I talk to Pat, I want to do it right. Like, if I have a number of conversations with him, I want to be able to record them. I don't even know how to do that. Like, if I had Skype conversations, no, not like this, because he's an Aaron, right? But I don't even know how to record if I'm having a Skype conversation with him, so that I get an actual full-scale record of that, so that I can then transcribe and work with it.
And so working with the university, with an institution.
That's why I want to work with Doug Hamilton, is to figure out how to do that well, because maybe a last shot.
Well, and you get Dan Anton in there. You know Dan.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's the tech guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he's me.
Yeah. Yeah.
The railroads, yeah. And because they've got all their video conferencing, so you can get them into a site, and now with the...
Sure, Dan and Mike, Dominique, and those guys, they would help me.
And you've got all those rooms upstairs in the building. And so you can...
But I want to be able to do that from home, too. I don't even know
I'm not sure what software... I don't know if Skype records.
I don't even know...
There's other things,
well,
too.
Skype must record, because every night on CBC's The National, you get Skype bits when they don't have other means of getting into somebody in Syria or whatever. You get Skype bits, right? They're using them as part of newscasts
whether Skype
now,
records,
Oh, okay.
It's
Or
some
something.
other tool,
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I just haven't seen... There's no record button that I'm aware of.
I got a big learning curve.
You do.
I got a big learning curve to
and not
make
because
use
there
of
are other
that stuff.
people who will do all the technical stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so for you, I mean, what you have is you have the passion for the information.
Yeah.
And you have the connection to the people.
And I want some of that history to be known.
That history really needs to be known.
I want some of that.
I'm trying to remember. There's several occasions recently where someone has said, "Oh, here's this thing." One of them is the beaches of Victoria, the secret beaches of Victoria. This guy just wrote a book, beautiful book.
Yeah.
However, in 1978, there was another book. So somebody was reviewing the book and said, "Wow, this is such a great idea. Why didn't someone think of this before?" Well, in 1970s, somebody else did it, and knowledge gets lost. Like there's a 30-year life cycle or something, a person's career cycle. So there's the things. There's things that you picked up from that person. So where did he get that stuff from?
Yeah, where did he get that
stuff
stuff from?
What was going on 30 years before
good point.
that?
That's a great point.
That he came up with that insight.
And he was writing a regular
then
column in a little monthly journal called Canadian Training Methods, CTM, for years.
He was editing, He was, you said? He was?
Pat was.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he'd been around in the field for a long time.
Yeah.
And he was good at it. He was really good at it.
Well, think of the ISW.
He had a heck of an influence on me, I'll tell you.
Yeah. So if you take anybody who's been to Potlatch and is out there working in their college, they've had that little cutting edge, that seed.
Yeah.
That people wouldn't normally be aware of unless you're pursuing it. So there's been exposed, So there's like that's that generational piece you pass along.
Yeah.
Well, the Toastmasters is that model. It's 1924. Ralph Smedley started a club in the YMCA in LA, and it's totally authentic learning. You get together, you try something, and you get feedback on it. Immediate feedback, and you just get one thing. Each time you do a speech, you get something that really worked well, something to work on, and then something else that they liked about it. So a little sandwich, twice as much positive as suggestions, but only one thing. And then you do 10 speeches, and by the time you've done 10 speeches, you've got these 10 gems that you should have absorbed by then. So it's not about like sheets and sheets of all your behavior, but it's like today you ummed. Today you ummed less.
Yeah.
And people go from totally shy, fearful, to taking leadership roles in their organization.
Yeah.
By spending a couple of years in Toastmasters.
Yeah.
So it's one of those kind of models. It's just it's practical and it's immediate.
So 5-minute clip, eh?
Like 3 hours or something.